Well, it's not a bad day. Cloudy. It's been raining on and off all morning. It's supposed to be kind of like this the rest of the day, I guess. Seems like a good day to take lunch and go check the fence for the spring, see if there's any limb damage over the winter or anything. Make sure it's not grounded out anywhere. And then once that happens, I think I can hook the fence up, maybe start keeping the deer out of here. Let's go give it a shot. Maine winters can be pretty harsh for us humans, but even harder on our non-human neighbors, both flora and fauna. The damage an electric fence sustains is nothing compared to the experience of the plants and animals that may have done that damage. For instance, this southwest corner of the north garden fence was ripped from the insulators in January. I know because I know how it happened. I came out of the house with Ziggy late one night when the full moon was illuminating the snow and everything else as if it were full daylight. The moment the dog and I stepped onto the front porch, I heard a deer snort, looked up to see several deer in the Brussels sprouts and kale patch scatter. When they're not under heavy fear pressure, they would delicately weave their way between the strands of electric wire like skilled interpretive dancers. But, with the sound of a human and the scent of a dog in the air, they just ran for it. Here's a little secret about electric fences. They aren't going to stop an animal that isn't merely testing the fence. If a deer, or cow, or pig, or any other large animal is spooked, it will just run through the fence. The pain of an electric shock is nothing compared to the millions of years of instinct bred into the feeling of terror of whatever is running to escape. There's that level of experience, but there's also the reason the deer were in the garden in the first place, daring to traipse where humans and dogs frequent every day. They're hungry. Winter is hard. There's also the damage inflicted from the local flora, namely trees dropping branches. The heavy snows and high winds of winter are like nature's bleach. They're part of a cycle that washes away all the dead and decaying parts of the world. Unlike with human cleaning rituals, nature allows these materials to contribute toward the overall health of the world by dropping them to the earth to decay and act as a slow food source for those plants and animals that remain. It's not nature's fault that I put an electric fence in the path of falling limbs.
Hey, come back over here. We don't live over there. Come here. There's plenty of hiding spots over here. Look at this one. Gotta be something in there. Come here. Look at all the caves over here you could be searching in. You don't need to go to the neighbor's house. Come on. Thought I wasn't watching you, didn't you? Come on. This way. Good boy. There's plenty of space over here you can look in. Yeah. Old faithful. He's right here with me.
This particular fence post is several feet inside our property line, unlike the rest of the posts on this line, which run just east of the property boundary. This makes the fence line veer into the property, then back toward the line. But with the negative aspects of the bowl, namely all the stumps and rocks the previous landowner pulled over here and buried, albeit poorly, this was the only place I could get a fence post to stand up. I couldn't get the tractor down here to use the post hole digger, and even if I had been able to, there's nothing to dig. I just had to find a hole that was already there, and deep enough to put a 10-foot cedar pole several feet down. This was the spot. But I then ran the fence very tightly, and each year, as it expands and contracts with heat, or with limbs falling on it down the line, there's been an incredible amount of force, particularly on the bottom strand. It's actually ripped the end of the insulator right off, and is now so far from the pole that I can't pull it back. So I'm going to rig up a little extension from a new insulator using a small scrap of wire. When I was farming commercially, my operation was at the farm, which means my gardens were out in the open expanse of old pasture with no trees for hundreds of yards in any direction. It was easy to keep things off the fence. However, the first year I had this garden, I tried to keep the fence charged all winter. It was a waste of time, electricity, and money. By late December that year, the snow was deep enough to have engulfed the bottom strand. There had already been high enough winds that several limbs had dropped, at least 2 of them, onto my fence, and the deer were walking through the fence even though my charger was blinking every 1.5 seconds, happily sending volts out through the fence, at least until the point where it was grounded, thus sending that electricity straight back into the ground, instead of into the nose of a timid deer reaching out to check the fence. I don't know how long that situation persisted before I noticed deer prints in the garden, walked the fence line and realized it was hopeless, and shut off the fencer. But I learned. Now, each spring, at least until I can get my limb fence built through the woody sections of the garden, I have to go around and rebuild before I can charge the fence, and therefore before I can put out any plants into garden beds. Most of the posts are in the ground at a depth of 2 to 4 feet. I used a post hole digger on the back of a John Deere 1070 to drill the holes. The post that was in this hole broke when I had an unfortunate disagreement with a plow truck during winter of 2017. So, a year ago this spring, I cut another post and did the best I could to get it into the same hole, but it's already sagging. When I sharpen fence posts, I keep a few of the pieces that are cut away during the sharpening for just this purpose. Good boy, Ziggy. Come here. Atta boy. Back on this side. So this is what happens when you are a tight fence and you survive winter running through the woods. So these 2 are okay. This one has, I don't know where, somewhere around here is the part that holds it onto the fence. I don't see it. I wonder if I already picked it up. Anyway, this one has come out. Actually, I picked this up a while ago. I think I just stuck this in. Yeah, I screwed this in last year because I didn't have a... I found that this was off. I remember, that's why. So this came off, the whole thing ripped off. I nailed this in originally. I have to go get a hammer and take this out. And then when I found this last year, I couldn't find my bucket full of stuff, but I just went and grabbed a screw and screwed it in through the base, and that clear didn't work. So this is so tight that it's just ripped through that. So basically I need to... Ziggy, you come back here. Need to take this out and then rebuild this one. Good boy. This one's okay. That one's come out. So what I need to do is take that off, put this back in. Oh, sorry, I'm so shaky, haven't had lunch. Put that back in. That one's okay. So, other than that, should be good. At this point, the fence is ready to go everywhere along its length, except the few remaining areas where I've got to trim up the limb fencing, then cut the electric line from behind it, and train the grapes up onto that limb fence. The new gate is up and working at the south entrance. Once this is done, it's time to charge up the fence. And not a moment too soon, because I've got a lot of seedlings that need to go out, and while it's unseasonably cold this spring, the plants I'm talking about can handle that. Today was just an absolutely beautiful day. It's May 6th, sunset, and I've got the fence to the point where I can turn the electricity on without grounding it out on the fence that I'm building. And the grapes, I've not finished along the driveway, but I worked hard this morning and took some time at lunch to get it to the point where I closed off enough sections that I could cut the wire behind the new fence and then splice it all together where the new fence is not covering. So I'm gonna plug it in, give it a test, and then should be all set, hopefully, assuming everything goes well. Well, that blinking light is a good sign. Just gotta go grab my tester. Sweet. All right. Good luck, dear. Tomorrow, Michael and I will be at the farm planting the trees we grafted this winter. I've been saving this old piece of broken vinyl siding to make nursery signs. I had intended to do this winter, but as often happens, that project got away from me. So I guess I'll just do it now.